Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Grant Palmer from the Arlington Heights United Methodist Church. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges. Thanks for coming out today.
Good morning.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we come before you this morning to welcome you to this courtroom. We give you respect and acknowledge you as our creator and provider, and we thank you for our community here in Tarrant County and for all the women and men who call this home. We ask that you guide us to make wise decisions with the resources we have been given, and we ask that you grant us strength to do good work this day. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Grant, thank you for coming out today. Tell Mary I said hello. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have one agenda announcement this morning. That deals with purchasing. It will be item 9H5. This is the RFP 2014-101, the outside financial audit for Tarrant County government. We are going to consider that after closed today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of June the 24th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We now come to our, before we come to our employee recognition, Commissioner Wynn, I think you have a new employee you want to introduce, and then I believe Mr. Wilder also.
Judge.
Wait a minute, Mr. Wilder must be out sampling the cookies. Oh, there he is. I thought. Just a second. We'll let Commissioner Wynn here go first.
Judge and fellow commissioners and everyone, please help me welcome Jim Sparks. He is our Precinct 2 Director of Field Operation and Transportation Services. Welcome to the family of Tarrant County. And Jim is a very well-respected transportation expert has been working as a Public Works Director for the city of Grand Prairie for a long, long time.
And worked for the city of Hearst before that. So
that's right.
He's visited both of my hometowns, my old one and my new one. So I guess my new one.
Welcome, Jim.
I guess by this point in time, I've spent more time in my new one than I did in my old one.
Most of us have.
And Commissioner District Clerk Wilder.
Oh, please don't.
I know it was just he was relishing in the dream for a while.
What is it now?
Anyway, it's my pleasure today to. Judge and members of the court, it's my pleasure today to introduce, for her first day on the job, my new civil family manager, Monica Foster. Monica? And Monica comes to us by way of 10 years in the federal courts and 4 years with General Electric as one of their team leaders. And please welcome her, if you will, for hopefully a long time in the county.
Thank you very much. And now we come to our employee recognition for the month of July. Most of you know the drill. Probably the ones that may not are the ones that we're going to recognize first. For our 5-year employees, please, when I call your name or what sounds like your name, and you've got an idea of where you are in the alphabet, so you know when you should be coming up, please stand and then remain standing until that group has completed. Beginning with our 5-year employees, our first is Christopher Mcconnell. There's Christopher, and he's in the county clerk's office. Tracy Johnson, district clerk. Cynthia Cotman, district clerk. Sheila Wright, juvenile services. Sheila. Lauren Turnerhill, juvenile services. Julie Martin, juvenile services. John Ray, the sheriff's office. Suzanne Waddington, tax office. Let's give these 5-year employees a hand. Now for our 10-year employees, Kathy Ballard, district clerk's office. Aletta Hernandez, elections. I didn't do very good on the first name. Yeah, that sounds, you're right, that sounds a whole lot better. Ronaldo Landon, juvenile services. He's not here to tell me how much I butchered his name. Roger Metcalf, medical examiner's office. Maudie Lacey, sheriff's office. Raymond Manning, sheriff's office. Miguel Ibarra, sheriff's office. Stephen Talent, tax office. And Amelia Rice, tax office. Let's give these 10-year employees a hand. Now for our 15-year employees, David Lobinger, District Attorney's Office. Deborah Lockhart, District Attorney's Office. Tammy Dosey, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 6. Jennifer Montgomery, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 6. Anitha Spears, Sheriff's Office. Scotty Ward, Sheriff's Office. Yay! And Randall Skinner, Transportation Services.
Where's Skinner?
Where's Skinner at today? Yeah, well, we're sure glad you made it. Let's give this 15-year employee.
I think we should start giving out door prices.
We might do that. Now for our 20-year employees, Jerry Tucker, Precinct 3. Jerry's not here. And I see Billy Blackman, Precinct 3. Stand up, Billy. How are you?
Hey, Billy.
Robert Cox, Purchasing. There's Robert. Tricia Flanoy, Sheriff's Office. Okay, how'd I... Last name? Hey, I did better than I thought. Maria Hernandez, Sheriff's Office. Let's give these 20-year employees a hand. And now for our 25 and plus years. The first is Char Poe with the County Clerk's Office. Been here for 25 years. Started out in the mail section. Spent a little bit of time there and then moved over to data entry and has been there ever since. When I asked her about memorable moments, she said, you know, it was really pretty scary, and that was when the shootings were occurring in the courthouse. She really enjoys her job. She loves the data entry, especially with regards to the property records. In the last 5 years, I guess she's her daughter's gotten married, and then well, that was a happy event. On the other side, then she lost her mother, and so I know we're all thinking about you and wishing you well from that standpoint. Bashar, we really appreciate the 25 years you've given us. Thank you. Next is Silvio Medrano, District Clerk's Office, 25 years. Started out in the civil area and worked in the the AG's office and civil courts for a while, and then worked in the 233rd as an administrative clerk and is now the family court supervisor. She said when we talked about memorable moments, it was winning the Clerk of the Year in 2006, and then also having been recognized by the Arlington Bar and the Family Bar the same year was something that she remembered. She really likes the people that she's had a chance to work with. She said that, really the county's one big family. She's, she's been in a new building. She moved into the new building, all the changes that were happening in downtown Fort Worth. She really likes the job security. Since last we talked, she said that she said, I've worked in about every area in this county except facilities. She has 2 sons and 2 granddaughters, and now that I've got a whole lot of grandkids, I have a tendency to try to talk. She says, the difference between the grandchildren and the children is you can love spoiling them when they're your grandchildren, but you can't when you're raising them. And so I think that's an interesting thought. Silvio, we appreciate very much the 25 years you've given Tarrant County. Marcia Huckabee, 25 years. Started out in the 153rd, and then in 91 she became the administrative clerk for the 96th, which was Jeff Walker and is now Judge Wallace. And then in 97 she became the court coordinator over there. She said that when I asked her about memorable moments, she said dealing with the attorneys each day is a little bit of a different deal and can be a memorable moment. When I asked her what she liked most, it was the fact that, there were never 2 days that were quite the same. She was saying that, she had really enjoyed, this was, 5 years ago, she said, I'd really enjoyed working with Judge Walker and with Reggie and now, with Judge Wallace, the county benefits. And then I think one of the other things that we had talked about was how impressed with all the volunteerism by all the county employees. And I mean, it's kind of that second mile. Our employees spend their days servicing our citizens and working with folks within our other departments. But on top of that, they've got that extra second mile giving that they always seem to want to get out there and do. When I asked her what had kind of occurred over the last 5 years, she said, we've got the new building. We've got the new building coming online. Will be coming online shortly. The e-filing. She said, one of the things that over the years that I have really come to appreciate, she said, I sold real estate for a while before I came to work for the county. And that's where you really begin to appreciate the benefits that the county offers. She said, when we'd have holidays when I was selling real estate, you didn't get paid for a holiday. You might be working during the holiday, but you certainly didn't get paid any extra or benefits from that standpoint. She said, I've really come to appreciate it, and I've come to appreciate it more. I think you said you had an aunt who had retired from the county after 44 years, and that one of the things she'd said is that you work for the county and you stay there, you're going to have a good retirement and good benefits from that. Marcia, we appreciate very, very much all the years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Calvin Hudson, pretrial services, 25 years. Calvin wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it. There'd been some changes in the schedules over there. He started out in the DA's office and worked there, and then left for a few months, a couple of months, I guess, and then came back and went to work for pretrial services. His release officer over there spends about 2 days now out in Arlington and then the rest in the downtown area. He said he remembered the time while he was in the DA's office, they moved from the old criminal courts building to the new Justice Center. He said what he likes most was the stability of the work and the closeness of the people that he's had a chance to work with over the years. When I asked him about kind of what's occurred over the last 5 years, he said there's a lot of new technology. He's also now gone back and he's a reserve deputy and is working with several organizations in that capacity. And again, another example, second mile, again, continuing to serve people even after the day job. Got a son starting as a junior, I guess, this year in Richland High. So, we appreciate very much, Calvin, the 25 years you've given to Tarrant County, and hope there'll be many more. Thank you. Next is Zane Coker with the Sheriff's Warrants Area, 25 years. Started out in the old Belknap Jail and was in the first group that moved over to the Green Bay facility. Made sergeant in the jail, and then went to the grievance committee and to a crime scene investigation, and then into the Warrants area. He said the most memorable moment was, he was a little nervous about this, but he said, I put J.D. Johnson on my application as a reference, and he said they still hired me.
Watch it.
He loves the folks that he has a chance to work with. He says Tarrant County is just a great place to work. He loves his job. He's got 3 grandkids that are growing up quick. He said, I could retire, but he said, I just love to work. He said, I've known J.D. forever. In fact, he admitted that his mother had even helped with J.D.'s campaign from time to time.
She was my office manager my first campaign as commissioner.
That's what he said. And so, we appreciate, Zane, very much the 25 years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Tonya Jordan with the tax office, 25 years. There she is. Started out in the downtown area and worked there for about, a couple of years, and then moved out to the Northwest, and now is a supervisor in the motor vehicles in the downtown area. She said, I just am very thankful that I have a job and have been able to work here with Tarrant County. She said, I really appreciate the consistency. She said, as a parent in raising my kids, I really appreciate the consistency of a county job. Both of her kids now are grown and are married, and she has 2 grandsons, a 7-month-old and a 3-year-old. So, again, Tonya, we appreciate very much the 25 years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Brenda Snelson with the tax office, 25 years. And y'all started on the same day, didn't you? And Anthony. Yes, all 3. I remember, I think y'all told me that 5 years ago when I talked with you. Started out, I guess, in the downtown area, then moved out to Northwest for a while, a title clerk, and is now a motor vehicle specialist, too, in the downtown, back in the downtown office. When she talked about memorable moments, it was seeing a lot of the new state computer systems that came through. She loves the fact, retirement, the benefits that we have, the people that she's had a chance to work with, and the public, too. I mean, the public folks that are coming forward. And then I think over the years, just in dealing with many of the car dealers, she's gotten to know those folks and really appreciates that. You could, just the sense of the conversation and the tone of the conversation could tell me how much she really enjoys the work that she get a chance to do. We talked about the fact that the time has really flown by. She's getting ready to retire. She's retiring on July the 7th. And so, we very much appreciate the time that you've spent with the county and the service that you've given us over these many years. So thank you very, very much for that. Next is Anthony Campbell. Now, he was in an automobile accident, and he fractured his ankle. He wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it here. He started off in the tax office, and I guess in '89 as a part-timer, and has been there really ever since. He's in the position of title transfers, and when asked about his memorable moments, he said, it's actually in looking, at some of the events that go on in the downtown area, the Main Street Arts Festival. When I asked him what he liked most, it was the opportunity to meet people and the people that he had a chance to work with and and really the different places that he's had a chance to work. He did recently have a car accident. He broke his ankle, and I know that's been something that you've been struggling with and coming back. And you know, we didn't talk about, I'm going to mention this, we didn't talk about this. He lost a child about a year ago, I guess, and, you know, 4 years ago. And it's one of those things that I think as a parent you just never dreamed could happen to you. And it's one of those things that I know that the county family, I'm sure, supported and helped with that. But as he said, it's just something that you live with day to day, and you hope that sometimes it gets a little bit easier, but you're just not ever sure that it will. So, Anthony, we'll be thinking about you. We appreciate very much, very, very much, the years of service you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Jerry McConnell, 30 years. Where's Jerry? There she is. Yeah, I see you brought him. You brought the cheering section with you there. She is at Constable Precinct 3. She's been running that office for at least 18 years, I know, because I've been around for 18 years, and I know she was running it when I was out there. She started out there. When I asked her what she liked most, again, it was the security, the lifelong friends that she's made in the 30 years that she's been with the county. She said it's just a great place to work. You know, what's happened over the last 5 years? Well, she's got a new constable. Daryl's out there now, and is getting ready for the new building that the commissioner will be opening, I guess, in December. Time has just, as I talk with a lot of these folks, what they say is they just cannot believe how quickly the time has flown by. Jerry, thank you very much for your 30 years of service. Now, David Kilpatrick from CSCD, and I'm sure David is not here. He's been 30 years in CSCD, and the reason I'm sure he's not here is because he's on vacation this week in Fredericksburg at his wife's insistence, and he said, I'm going to be down there whether I like it or not. He was actually there when I talked with him, and he was having a great time. So he said, this has really become another family. You know, really he took this as a summer job, and he said, after 30 years, he said, I think I'm going to stay for a little bit longer. And again, so many folks, when they first came to the county, they thought, well, it'll be a summer job, or I'll work here for a couple of years and then I'll move on to something else. And because of the people that they've had a chance to work with, because of the work that they've had an opportunity to do as a county, they've just fallen in love with it, and they find themselves after 30 years being recognized. So if you see David, please congratulate him on the 30 years that he spent with Tarrant County. Next is Rodney Williams, Sheriff Booking. There he is. Started out 30 years. Started out in the jail, worked on the labor detail for about 12 years, and is now in the release area in the Corrections Center. When he started out, he said, Lon Evans was the sheriff, and he said, I've seen many changes over the 30 years that I've had a chance to be here. He said, they're great people that I've had a chance to work with. The benefits have been good. When I asked him kind of what had occurred over the last 5 years, he said the family's still doing great. He's ready for another several years. Grandkids, he's got 4 grandkids. In the last 5 years, he's, I guess, had 3 more. He had one the last time we talked 5 years ago, and that one is 6, and then he has one that's 4 and 2 and 1. So, Rodney, we appreciate very, very much the 30 years that you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Cumulatively, that is about 625 years of service to Tarrant County and to their citizens and to the employees that they have an opportunity to work with. Let's give everybody another big round of applause. We've got refreshments in 504C. Yeah, you notice he's up and running already. Now, you can let that belt out a little bit before you head back that way. Board members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a public hearing today to consider the placement of stop signs. Joe?
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
We're here today to come to you requesting approval of a stop sign to be placed at the intersection of Crowfoot Trail and Hicks-Avondale, to make sure I say this right, Hicks-Avondale School Road. We've coordinated with the Sheriff's Department on this and the precinct in getting this installed.
This is a public hearing. At this time, I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. There appearing to be none, then I will close the public hearing and ask if there's any action this time.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Manius?
Members of the Court, we have two additional items to bring to you this morning for action. The first item is the adoption of the county's FY14 through 20 strategic plan.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion?
I just want to clarify one thing.
Yes, sir.
That on page 9, it talks about successful execution of the strategic plan. When we say ensure key stakeholders are involved in the process,
Yes, sir.
we refer to members of the court. We talking about all the elected officials.
And department heads.
Department heads.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we have that clarification. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Member of the court, if we can go to item number 2, we're requesting that the court approve a tax-exempt financing facilitated by the Arlington Higher Education Finance Corp. This is a maximum principal amount of $35 million for Trinity Basin Preparatory for certain educational facilities located in Tarrant County. More specifically, it is to finance and refinance construction and equipment at their site located at 101 East Pafford Street in Fort Worth. We have received communications from Trinity Basin that there are no restrictions as far as current or future use, governmental use, also that they intend to abide by the guidelines of the county's HUD policy.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion?
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about this. What, this facility and what type of educational facility
It's
is
a charter
Trinity Basin Preparatory Inc.?
Right. I'll ask Ms. McMillan to provide that information.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I didn't hear. What was your question?
Tell me a little bit about what this is. Is this a school?
It is a school.
Is
It's
it a charter school?
I don't really know the full ramifications of what type of school, if it's a charter school or just a private school. But I do know that we've done this a couple of times. We did, last July, we also did the same amount, $35 million. Again, and these are bonds that are issued by the Arlington Education Facility, and just because it's located in Tarrant County, the court has to give their approval, but it is a conduit bond.
Right.
I don't know any more about the school, other than it is a school that's located in Arlington.
Should we
Okay.
know more about it?
We've actually done one of these before on this particular entity. So it's I mean, we can
I'm
find
just
more
asking, we're
information.
granting it tax-free status, I'm assuming, and
Right.
we.
This is
we've had some
more of a
concerns.
this is more of a pro forma so that they qualify for the IRS exemption.
And honestly, you know, I think that we kind of look to, because Arlington Education Finance Corp. is the one issuing the bonds, I look to them. If they're approving it, then they're just bringing it to us because we have to approve it because we're the highest governing body in the county, so we have to do that. But I feel like they have already gone through those hoops to.
Have we validated with the city that they're okay with this? Because, I mean, I'm assuming that the Arlington Higher Education Finance Corporation is not the city, nor what, I mean, who makes that, who is it?
It's not the city, however, that entity was created by the city of Arlington.
Okay.
I'd just be curious, is it a not-for-profit, is it probably isn't a for-profit if we're giving it tax-free status.
So none.
But, Andy, do you,
I can find out more information.
anybody, I'm just curious as to,
Now,
I
the-
think we ought to know more about it.
I agree,
personally.
and I will, you know.
Okay.
in the-
I agree with Commissioner Fickus. I read up on the court documentation here yesterday, so I felt comfortable voting for it, but I did not know anything about it. I have a little bit of a heartburn about that. I like to know what goes on in my precinct.
This is a free charter school that was established in 1998 and has been in existence in Tarrant County since that time. We'll be more than happy, though, to ask that we hold this for just a little while, and we'll do some minor research and then come back
So
to you.
you're saying it is a charter school?
Yes, it is, according to their website.
Would
Is
you
your
like?
preference to hold, or is your preference to go forward?
I don't have a problem.
I could go
I
forward.
just think we ought to know, have a little bit better feel of the background on any of these that we do.
And we will do that in the
I'm
future.
kind of like Andy, I read all that, and I kind of thought we were dealing with a school, but it never really said we were dealing with a school.
Well, and I knew we were dealing with a
Much less
school.
what kind of school, I mean, is it secondary, is it higher education, is it, you know, is it K through 8? I don't have a clue.
I will make sure in the future that we
You would-
know a
if you
lot
would
more
like,
background.
Why don't we hold this until the end, and until after close, so we can give you more information on it.
Okay, we'll do that. Let's
Thank
wait
you.
till after closed. I guess you're next.
Yes, sir, I believe I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
We have several items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item, we're asking the court to approve an out-of-class pay extension for public health. As explained in your court communique, we have an employee who assumed the duties of the Associate Director of Health Quality and Planning back in April. According to our policy, bless you, when an employee is received out-of-class pay for 90 days, anytime beyond that has to be approved by court. So Public Health is requesting an extension through October. As indicated in your court communique, the cost to the Public Health Fund will be approximately $1,760, and that does include fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 3, we're asking for another out-of-class pay, this time for information technology. We have an employee who was assigned the duties of the Information Security Officer last July. This has been one of our positions that we've talked to you about that we've had some difficulty recruiting. IT is still in the process of recruiting. They are, however, requesting an extension for this individual through October at a cost to the general fund of approximately $6,200. This cost, however, will be offset by salary savings.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our fourth item, we have another out-of-class pay extension, this time for community development. We have an employee who was assigned to the assistant director, or assigned the duties of the assistant director, who retired back in February of this year. The department is requesting an extension through August of this year. This is a grant-funded position, so we're looking at costs of less than $1,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our fifth item, we're asking the court to approve changes to the table of organization for public health. They are requesting that the court allow them to reclassify an administrative assistant 5 position. We do need to make a couple of corrections to your court communique. If approved, this reclass will be effective July 19th, not July 5th. And the net savings to the public health fund will be approximately $8,100, and that does include fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our sixth and final item will be handled by Ms. Worthy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On June 17th, we briefed the court regarding the consideration of a PEBC wellness program. On May 28th, actually, the PEBC Board of Governors approved the program in concept, and then each of the parties to the PEBC have the opportunity to opt into the wellness program. This wellness program is a 3-year program initially. There are optional levels of the program. There is a $300 wellness level, meaning that as employees earn points, they can earn $300. There will not be tiers to that. It would be, they would earn them all or not at all. And there is a $600 level. And then, of course, the court would have the opportunity to opt out. Should the court choose to opt into the program, then, of course, they'll have to choose the level and a reward methodology. We have 3 options, again, basically for a reward methodology. The rewards could go into the employee's FSA or HSA accounts. The employee could receive it as cash. Now, if the employee receives it as cash, there are tax and deduction implications to both the employee and the employer, Tarrant County. And then, of course, we could also set it up where the employee chose which method they wanted to get their reward in. The program is available to all employees that have the PEBC medical plan, so opt-outs are not able to earn the reward. They can participate in the gateway portion of the program, but they cannot get rewards. And in year one, only the employees that are medically covered by PEBC are eligible. In year two, spouses are added. And then in year three, it becomes an outcomes-based program where employees would have to, and spouses, depending on who participated, would have to meet certain standards, medical standards, for example, a BMI or a blood pressure level.
Or they would be making progress toward meeting those.
Correct. All of this is compliant with the ADA, which does allow for accommodations, and there are a variety of accommodations that can be used to meet various parts of the program, and those are outlined in the program design. I've provided for you a comparison of our current program and the PEBC program, and then some cost estimates on what the program will cost. If we use the $300 plan, there is a cost of $2.88 per employee per month as an administrative fee. If we choose the $600 plan, it's $3.15 per employee per month. And of course, we have outlined the other costs that might go along with the program in comparison to the cost we are spending on our current program. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Robin, I think at last week's meeting, we had heard that has Denton and Parker County have already elected to opt in.
That is my understanding, yes, sir.
Do you know what levels that they decided to opt in
I do
at?
not know that.
Okay. I would, Annie and I both are on the board there, and we really have not discussed what our thoughts are about this, but I would hope that for at least the first year that we would opt in at the $300 plan level, so it would be option one, and that we give our employees the ability to either put that in their HSA, their flex account, or the or cash option. So give them any one of those three options. And I guess I'll make
the cost on that's $432,000. Is that right? Let me get back to that page.
Yes, sir. That is based on an estimate of approximately 1,000 participants. We currently have about 1,300 employees that participate in our health risk assessment, and around 400 or so employees that actually participate in the rewards part. We are given the estimate that between a third or a fourth of our employees would participate, or 30 to 40%, I'm sorry. And so we made an estimate of 1,000 participants. Obviously, it could be higher or lower. Our current highest reward level in our current program is $300 as well.
And the 432, when we get around to the budget part of that deal, right now in our insurance plan, we've set that aside. We've got a reserve in there. Last year we discussed what that reserve should be, and at the court at that point in time, I think we were looking for around $8 million. We ended the year, I think, with somewhere around 10 or 11 million, but we had said that with all the uncertainty that was surrounding the Affordable Care Act and everything else that was going on, we certainly didn't want to disturb that or to move any of that money. I think the uncertainty is still there. However, we now have $13.5 million as of the end of this prior month, I believe. I'm not seeing anybody jumping up and down saying I'm wrong. I would anticipate that the cost of the wellness program, we would put that or pay for that out of that reserve. And so it'll still be a line item budget, but I think it's money that, at least as we look at this, there's a twofold reason I would say for this wellness program. First and foremost, we do want to encourage our employees to be more responsible about their health, to understand it, and to understand what our what our different programs are out there and available to help them be healthier. And that really is something that can go across the board to everybody who works for us. Now, granted, the rewards that we're talking about here are for the folks inside of our self-insured plan. And for those, the other side of that is we've got to find some way to hopefully bring down that cost of our program by 2018. We originally had been told that we were looking at a $5 million excise tax. The last calculation that was done, and I'm not sure it was, there are a lot of things that we're doing in our plans to try to find ways to reduce the cost side as well as to reduce, hopefully, what the usage will be by our employees on a go-forward basis. I think our latest number that I remember seeing was about $3 million, somewhere between $2.5 and $3 million for that excise tax in 2018. So I think that, whether it be increased deductibles, whether it be other different things that we're doing with our plans, we are making some headway toward that. But I think this wellness plan, the longer we can have that going, the more likely that we are to see some impact of that by the year 2018. So I guess I say all that, and just as an effort to get this kind of a little bit more discussion planned, I'm going to go ahead and move that we adopt option 1 with the flexibility to allow our employees to go HSA, flex spending, or cash. Is that?
Those are your choices, yes, sir. I do want to also mention, when we met last on June...
Is there a second to that?
There hadn't been yet.
I'll second it for the sake of argument.
On June 17th, additionally, we did talk about the money that we currently give to our employees. You might remember we currently give all of our employees, including opt-outs, $240 and 24 cents for an FSA account. And that currently, for the 3,514 employees, that when we looked at this on the census date, that's about $844,000 for the employees, and of the 488 opt-outs, that's a little over $117,000. So I did want to mention to that again, that the employees are currently getting some FSA money.
And we're not, by my motion, I'm not suggesting any change whatsoever in that.
That is correct.
Other discussion?
By keeping the current FSA contribution and providing the $300 for the wellness program, essentially we maintaining the richness of all healthcare
Yes, sir.
benefit program, which is directly contradict to the mandate of the Obama Affordable Health Care Act, right? Okay.
Yes, sir. We would maintain our same level for this, for year one, based on the motion that was made.
So what that means, I make this comment to Mr. Manias,
Just a clarification. At the last PEBC meeting, there was discussion and action concerning the new plan that comes into effect in January, and that new plan has some increases in it as far as deductibles and things like that, which would actually lower the richness of our plan, but begin to move us toward a situation where that the excise tax may not be applicable to us.
may not be applicable to us. Okay. Well, thank you.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You waited your time and
I
you didn't
did.
jump in front of anybody this time?
I
You
did. I
did great.
tried to control myself today. Good morning. Public Health has one request today, and that is for the court to approve for the Medicaid waiver, the IGT payment. This is going to be our first payment. We have 2 each year to the Department of Health and Human Services, and then authorize the county auditor to release the payment prior to appearing on the claims register.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, the members of the court, we have 4 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for RFP 2014-120. This is for digitization and preservation of historical documents for the county clerk's office. Recommendation be to award per the contract terms, selecting as our primary vendor Co-File Preservation, as our secondary vendor Fiddler of Texas.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is also a bid award recommendation for RFQ 2014-121. This is request for qualifications for cervical dysplasia services for the Public Health Department. Recommendation be to award to Planned Parenthood of North Texas, the amount of $15,000. If this is approved, we're seeking contract approval from the court.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2014-122. This is a bid for the Tarrant County Cold Springs Jail Door Control Replacement. Recommendation will be toward the low bidder, Metroplex Control Systems, the amount of $50,733. If this item is approved, we're also seeking contract approval as well as acceptance of the payment and the performance plan.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And item number 4 is also...
Jack,
Yes, sir.
were they the only bidder
We had 2.
on that one?
Oh, no, no, we just had, just a minute.
On Metroplex Control System?
I'm getting ahead of myself on this one. I believe they were the only one. Is that right, Dan?
Did you say they were?
Only, was that the only bid on this one? Yes, sir, I'm sorry. And our last item, number 4, is a bid award recommendation for bid 2014-127. This is the bid for the purchase of replacement check transports for the tax office. Recommendation be toward R.T. Lawrence Corporation, the amount of $286,880.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No allowance. No trading.
Come on down, Ms. Green.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're requesting the Commissioners Court to approve an order to abandon and vacate a right-of-way easement which was acquired by Tarrant County on June 14, 1944 by an instrument recorded in Volume 1647, page 518 in the deed records of Tarrant County. The said right-of-way easement having been originally acquired for the construction of a proposed road called Dean Road, but was never built, and the right-of-way easement continues to encumber property that is now within the municipal city limits of Benbrook, Texas, in the proposed La Cantera Phase 2 Team Ranch subdivision. The developer has already constructed the concrete roads in the subdivision, and a portion of this easement is within that road structure, but a portion is also among some of the lots that he's developed to sell. So we're just requesting that you all approve this abandonment and vacation.
Move approval. Second.
So how is it that he was able to build on our road or on our easement? I mean, I don't have any problem certainly in doing that, but it's...
We appreciate that.
Sometimes those things happen.
That's a great explanation.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Yeah, it's legal.
Thank you.
Tell him you're welcome.
It's a perfect example to,
Are there any appointments today? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two items to bring to you this morning. The first concerns a report from the Texas County and District Retirement System. Ms. Mcconnell is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
good morning.
Good morning.
All right, thank you for the introduction. With that being said, and in the interest of y'all's time, I will go ahead and get started. So I want to begin by highlighting the three key strengths of, there we go. The three key strengths of your Tcdrs retirement plan. The first being that it is savings-based and you all are advance funding the future benefits you're promising your current employees. Second, our funding policy is responsible because we do not allow any of our participating employers to take contribution rate holidays, nor do we allow them to pay a required rate less than what the outside actuary specifies from year to year. We also adjust your rate on an annual basis to ensure that any liabilities are funded within a closed 20-year period. Finally, your court has flexibility and local control. Every year you're able to review your plan and you can make any changes that you deem necessary to coincide with your budget. At Tcdrs, we partner with more than 655 counties and districts across the state to provide their employees with retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. Last year alone, Tcdrs paid an estimated $971 million in benefits to retirees and former members. 96% of that money stayed right here in Texas, and as you can see from the slide, almost $45 million returned to the Tarrant County community. We were created in 1967 by the Texas legislature, and we are governed by a 9-member board of trustees that are appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Senate. We do not receive any state funding. Each plan is funded independently through employers, their employees, and investment earnings. We also do not charge employers fees for participation. As of December 31st, 2013, the size of the total fund was an estimated $23 billion. We are one of the largest 50 public retirement systems in the country, and you benefit from those economies of scale. At nearly 90% funded, Tcdrs is in the top 20% of public retirement systems when it comes to our funding level. Tcdrs, as I mentioned, is a savings-based plan, so every pay period, a portion of your employees' pay is taken from their pay and comes to Tcdrs. Every year, those accounts earn 7% interest. That interest allocation is set by the Texas legislature and can only be changed by the Texas legislature. The benefit your employee receives at retirement is based on their age at retirement, how much money they saved up over their working career, the employer matching that is provided at that time, and then also the payout option that they choose upon retirement. You, the court, chooses the amount of employer matching. It can range for dollar all the way up to $2.50 for every dollar the employee has saved over their career. For your plan, we estimate that only 35 to 40% of current and future employees will actually retire from Tarrant County and receive that employer matching. And that is because for those employees that separate employment, and if they withdraw their money or if they roll it into another qualified plan, by doing that, they're forfeiting the right to those matching dollars that you are setting aside for them right now. So let's review your plan of benefits. Your employees are contributing 7% of their pay towards their future retirement, and the current match by the county is 200% or $2 for every dollar they've saved. Your vesting is 8 years, the minimum amount of time an employee has to work to earn the right to that retirement benefit in the future. And your retirement eligibility provisions are either age 60 with 8 years of service at the latest, or people can retire earlier than that age through the rule of 75, where their age plus years of service combined to equal the number 75, and lastly, by putting in 30 years of service regardless of age. This is a snapshot of your average employee profile and average retiree profile. As you can see, on average, your employee demographic is age 47 years old with at least 13 years of service and has an annual compensation of over $50,000. And then your retiree profile, we see your retirees on average retiring at age 61 after 18 years of service and bringing home an average annual benefit of $26,900. This excerpt comes from page 2 of your plan assessment. It shows the average replacement ratios for a member who works 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 years. So if you look at the center column, a member who retires from Tarrant County after 20 years of service stands to replace approximately 55% of their final salary in retirement. Of course, the longer somebody stays employed, the higher that replacement ratio goes, and vice versa. If somebody wishes to retire earlier, that replacement ratio would go down. So now that we've reviewed your benefits, let's take a look at how those benefits are funded. Because you and your employees are saving for benefits in advance, you get the maximum power of investment earnings over time. Because of this, benefits are primarily funded through investment earnings. 77 cents of every benefit dollar that goes out the door comes from the pooled assets and what the investment team is able to do with those assets. Another 13 cents of the benefit dollar comes from employer contributions into the plan. And the last 10 cents on the benefit dollar comes from employees' own pocket, what they are contributing to their future retirement. So you can see how important investments are to funding the benefit you provide. So let's take a look at investment history over the years. As you can see, the 2013 return was 16.4% net of fees. I do want to highlight that we are long-term investors at Tcdrs, and what I mean by that is that on average we see employees have a career of anywhere from 15 to 20 years, and then we see them retired for another 15 to 30 years. So that's almost a 30-year time horizon in which we have to invest for each member of the system. Our 30-year return as of December 31st, 2013 is at 9.5%. This slide shows our 30-year return of 9.5% broken out into 3 components. The first one is the one which shows the performance from 1984 through 2007, the year prior to the financial crisis. Then the return from the 2 years during the financial crisis, both the downturn and the subsequent recovery, and the 4 years since. History does not tell us what future returns will be. We use forward-looking forecasts to model our asset allocation. However, history can give us a good idea of what possibilities exist. We measure our performance by comparing our portfolio to established asset benchmarks, and then the Tcdrs board reviews our performance quarterly. Our portfolio has consistently outperformed our benchmarks. This is a system-wide projection. I will get to the Tarrant County projection in a few more slides. The great news is that the 2013 earnings allowed the board to fully offset the net losses in the pipeline this year. One of the tools that we have to keep your rate stable is that we smooth both investment gains and losses to avoid single-year rate spikes. The investment return also supported a move to a more conservative funding policy. The board approved moving from a 10-year smoothing down to a 5-year smoothing. This makes employer rates more reflective of current market conditions. So this slide is basically showing you the blue line at the top shows where we expected employer rates as a system-wide to go right after the 2012 valuation when 2008 losses were still in the pipeline. The red line below it shows where we're expecting them to go right after this latest valuation, year in 2013. And as you can see, we've made a lot of progress from last year to this year. Okay. The many different types of asset classes in our portfolio minimize the risk of possible losses from any single asset class or investment. In a perfect world, our investments would produce exactly our long-term return goal of 8% year after year. That's every portfolio manager's dream. But we all know that's not reality, and we do understand that there is a certain amount of year-to-year fluctuation that we refer to as risk or volatility. We assume that our returns in most years will fall within a gray band, which I realize that the audience cannot see the gray band. Hopefully on your screens in front of you, you can. That gray band represents the risk that we are assuming. So in any year, we are anticipating our returns to be within either 10% above that long-term 8% return goal or 10% below. So we're expecting returns within positive 18%, negative 2% in any given year. This graph shows our actual return over the past 16 years, and as you can see, the portfolio has performed mostly as expected, with the exception of the Great Recession in 2008 and the subsequent recovery in 2009. Now let's look at employer contributions. I'm sorry? Yes. Uh-huh.
Maybe this isn't relevant to this graph, but in 2008, we dropped 29% from the 8% baseline.
Yes.
And in 2009, we rose 26%. Did that 26% actually take us up that high, or did it even get back to the baseline? If you follow what in real dollars.
In real dollars, no. We were still, that very next year, we were still at a loss.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I would think so, because we would have lost 29% on a larger amount.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then we would have gained 26 on a smaller amount.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So why are you showing this graph that way?
I don't know.
Because it's
I'll have to ask communications
because
that.
it's percentages returned versus dollars returned.
It's just year to year.
Okay.
If we didn't do it in percentages and we did it in dollars, it wouldn't necessarily
It wouldn't
be
make our
quite so
graph
nice.
look as good.
Just trying to go back, sorry. Okay. I'm just waiting for it to catch up. To the next slide. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about your required contribution rate. Your required contribution rate is the percentage of payroll that you are required to pay into fund the benefits that you're promising your employees. Your rate is determined annually by our outside actuary. What they do is they take a snapshot of your workforce, they look at the assets that you have on hand, and then they project what the payouts are going to be in the future. They then determine a rate that will appropriately fund those benefits over the long haul. Your 2015 rate went down a little bit. It's going to be 14.50%. That goes into effect on January 1st. By paying this rate, you are doing two things. You are funding current employees' future benefits, and you are also paying down liabilities over that closed 20-year window. So let's talk a little bit more about those unfunded liabilities. We don't like the term unfunded liabilities at Tcdrs because it implies that you all are not funding the future benefits you're promising those current employees, when we know that by simply paying that required rate from year to year, which you all have been, you are paying down any liability within a reasonable amount of time, that closed 20-year period. The way that liabilities happen is typically one of two ways: by either passing a benefit enhancement that hasn't been saved for in advance, and so it creates 15 years of liability at that time, or when actual plan experience doesn't match up to what the actuaries thought was going to happen that year. The most common example of that would be a down investment year. So this is showing your reasons for rate change from last year, your current rate of 14.57 to what's going to occur January 1st. Your rate decreased slightly from this year to next year because of that 2013 gain, and also because of the lump sum that you sent us last year, which outweighed the negative plan experience from the bottom two categories. So this, the slide, the few slides prior, you saw system-wide. This is actually specific to Tarrant County. This slide shows a projection of your employer rates through 2038, assuming an 8% return and no other actuarial gains or losses. And this graph shows a projection of your assets, what you have on hand to pay for those benefits. It's represented by the green area, versus your liabilities, what you're expected to owe, which is the red shaded area. Your plan currently has a funded ratio of 81.5%. And as you can see, that red line is diminishing over time as you are funding those liabilities within that 20-year window. Right here, again, I apologize to the audience, you cannot see the yellow highlighted figure to show where you all are right now. At that 14.5% for plan year 2015, that is based on a 7% employee deposit rate and 2-to-1 match. But this basically just highlights the flexibility and local control that you have, whether you want to make benefits more conservative to decrease the rate or more generous would result in a rate increase. Ways to keep your rate stable, maintaining your level of benefits will do that, as well as choosing to fund more than what is required into the plan, either through the form of a lump sum contribution or a higher elected rate, which is simply a rate that could be determined by the court, set anywhere above what your required rate is going to be. So anything above that 14.5, correct. There are two types of cost of living adjustments that you all may decide on this year if you choose. The first, of course, is the flat rate. That changes from year to year, and it coincides with what CPI inflation is. From December 2012 to December 2013, inflation was 1.5%. So the Tcdrs Board of Directors capped that flat rate COLA at 2% this year. So you could choose either a 1% or a 2%. And then there's also, of course, the CPI-based COLAs that looks at cumulative lost buying power for your retirees, and then you then could choose to replace a certain percentage, either from 10% up to 100% of cumulative lost buying power.
Let me stop you there for a second. You said we could either choose 1 or 2%. Last year, we chose 0.5%. Didn't we?
You did a 50% CPI. You did a CPI COLA.
You didn't do a flat.
Yeah.
But we could do 50%.
Of this, yeah, you could still do 50%
Which one? I thought
CPI.
one of those required us to go back.
The
if we
CPI.
didn't.
CPI
Okay,
is
so
going
I
back.
thought we had chosen to do one that would not require us to go back and make up for the ones that we hadn't done in the past.
No, last year was a 50% CPI, which was taking all years into account for each retiree.
Okay.
Okay. So under the new GASB standards, if you do choose to regularly adopt a COLA for your retirees, it could be designated as a repeating COLA for financial reporting purposes. This causes your net pension liability on your balance sheet to increase. The repeating COLA designation has no effect on your plan funding. It does not impact your funded ratio, nor does it impact your required contribution rate that you all are going to receive from us from year to year. It's just important to note that going forward, you will start to receive 2 sets of numbers instead of 1. One to fund the plan, as you always have, and another one that will be used for financial reporting.
And the difference between that is about 150. It affects what we have to report on our financial statements to the tune of about $150 million. And it takes our funding percentage from what had been previously reported at around 81% to, if we adopt a COLA, it takes us down to about 76% and produces 150 more in liability. If we don't, it obviously doesn't increase the liability, and it takes our funding percentage from what is now 81 up to 86%. Commissioner Johnson brought up an interesting point, and I've asked Christina to go back and check this out and to talk to the board of directors about that, her board of directors, one of which we have here. They're making the assumption that if we give the cost of living this year that we're repeating it, and therefore they assume that we're going to repeat it into the future. However, we've also taken the position that if we do that, we fund it all in, it had been a lump sum, it would be probably in the future, it'll probably be over 12 months. But they don't take that into consideration. And so one of the things that I've asked Christina to do is to go back and say, if you're going to make the assumption that we do it 1 year, we're going to do it every year, then you ought to take the same assumption that if we pay for it 1 year, we're going to pay for it for every year. And unless that is a GASB rule, which I'm not sure whether it is or not, but if it's not, then I would hope that you will extend that same assumption to our payments or our funding schedule. The repeating deal, y'all have looked at, and you and KPMG, which are your auditors, have determined that we have to skip 3 years in order not to be a repeater.
Correct.
That is not something that GASB has formalized or said specifically you have to do that. That's y'all's choice.
Correct.
And I would also like to determine or ask if we might not look, instead of doing it on a 3-year basis, that we might look at it on a 2-year basis or something. To me, 3 years seems excessive. Now, if you stick with the 3 years and you do that with that, but at the same time you give us credit for the fact that we're funding it each year, then by the fact that we're funding it each year, it shouldn't cause our liability to go up. And so I may not care as much about what your classification of repeating is, as long as you'll be consistent with, if you're going to call us a repeater because we give it, then you got to take into account the funding is also being done repetitively, and therefore it should cancel each other out. So 2 questions you're going to come back, or they're going to address, is
Yes.
one, the question with regards to our funding policy, and 2, with regards to 2-year versus 3-year on the repeater.
Yes. I will be taking those comments back to TCDRS and sharing it with the executive team there. So.
And with hopefully with the board now.
Hey, Christina, I might ask if it would strengthen our position that if the Commissioners Court approves a policy as it relates to the funding of COLAs, that if and when we do fund those, that we fund them in total rather than adding to the liability. If you'll ask that question also.
Okay. Yes.
But it needs to be clear that that funding will occur over the next 12-month period. It won't be a lump sum.
In the form of an elected rate.
Yeah, it won't be in a lump sum. What we'll basically say is, this is the cost. Tell us what that cost spread over the next 12 months in our percentage, and calculate an increase in our percentage to pay for that over a 12-month period. The reason for the 12-month payment is that embedded in our salary numbers are the salaries for all of the folks at CSCD. And CSCD is a liability of the state. And we bill them each year the percentage that TCDRS gives us, and they pay that. If we send lump sum money down, then that's not included in the percentage, and we don't have a vehicle by which CSCD can put that into their budget, and we can be reimbursed. This past lump sum payment, I know that GK is working with Layton over at CSCD about reimbursing us the percentage, the CSCD percentage of that lump sum. And so we're working through, and hopefully we're going to be able to accomplish that for the lump sum payments that we've made, and maybe for the lump sum payment that we made with our cost of living for at least last year, and maybe for others, but at least for those 2. The other thing that we're going to be talking with, we've already begun conversations with TCDRS, is that when we talk about the financial statements, and we talk about the fact that we have to show that liability on in our financial statement, that we are going to break down the portion that belongs to the state for the CSCD employees and separate that from the county's total liability. And the conversations right now have centered around doing that based upon the percent of the overall salary that CSCD represents in that total county number. And I think the first cursory percentage was somewhere around 6%. I think is what we're saying that may be, but we're going to have to go back and look at that. But we're going to need that number, so as Mr. Manius deals with CSCD and Layton with regards to last year's numbers, that we have a way to be able to say, okay, if it is 6%, and if it was $6 million, then we're talking about around $360,000 that we would be wanting to CSCD to reimburse us for the state's employees. So there's about three things there. There's the splitting out of the CSCD, and then the two questions with regards to the time frame and the consistency on the policy for payment.
Yes. All noted.
And I see our county clerk making notes, so I know that she's going to bring that up at the next board meeting.
Very good. Well, Judge, Commissioners, that does bring me to the end of the presentation here, and I just want to conclude by saying that you have until December 15th to let us know how you want to proceed with your plan, whether or not y'all want to make any changes, which does include, if y'all are adopting a higher elected rate this year, we'll need to know it by that time as well. So there is plenty of time before you all have to make a decision on the Tcdrs retirement plan. And with that being said, if anybody has any additional questions, I'll take them at this time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure being here.
Members of court, if we can go to item D on the briefing. This is a tax abatement for American Airlines, their new integrated operations center. Ms. Mcconnell is here to address the court.
Judge, Commissioners, we have an exciting project for American Airlines. They're looking to locate an integrated operations center here in Fort Worth on an area that's an existing parking area that's adjacent currently to their reservations center. As you can see, it's just south of 183 and west of 360 off of American Boulevard, just north of FAA Boulevard. This center will combine the daily flight operation areas into a centralized location. And they plan to invest approximately $55 million in a 149,000 square foot facility and include improvements of over $33 million in new business personal property to the site by the end of next year. This facility will combine the current American Airlines centers that are located here, which employ about 800 people at multiple locations in this area, and also bring the U.S. Airways facility, relocating approximately 500 employees from Pennsylvania. So by the end of 2015, we should have 1,300 employees at this new location. The annual payroll for the facility is projected to be approximately $87 million for the year. They do provide health care and other benefits and offer 401k with employer match. The City of Fort Worth has approved a 15-year tax abatement and economic development program agreement that provides up to 85% of abatement on real and personal property taxes. There we go. What staff is recommending is a tax abatement of 50% for 10 years on real and personal property improvements. This would start with a base abatement of 40% that would require the minimum investment of $55 million in real property and $33 million in business personal property, and require the retention of 1,300 jobs, and would provide for an additional 10% bonus abatement if the jobs were to rise above the 1,300 minimum, and for additional contracting of Tarrant County and DBE contractors in the construction, and for more Tarrant County resident employment. The term sheet is included in your packet. This is similar to many of the tax abatements that we've been doing recently. Should American earn the full tax abatement of 50% over the 10 years, we're estimating that the 10-year tax abatement would total approximately $1.2 million over that period of time.
So the 50% is the maximum. Those extra numbers that you mentioned.
Correct. It would be a 40% base and a 10% additional. So the maximum in any 1 year is going to be 50%.
Is there any requirement on the number of that 1,300 that need to live in Tarrant County versus?
Well, the minimum is 25% per our policy, but to get an additional 3% so they can earn in that 10% bracket, if they have over 65% of the employees that are Tarrant County residents, they could earn 3% for that year. If that level were to fluctuate from year to year, one year they may not get it. If they're above 65% the whole time, they would get 3% every time. So that's a way for them to earn that bonus 10%.
And that's for, and this abatement pertains to the building and to the improvements of that building right there?
Correct. Only, that new building only.
What happened? Are they tearing down an existing?
I'm going to let Mr. Allen, Chuck Allen, who is the Director of Government Affairs for American Airlines, is here, and he can talk to that. As far as I know right now, they don't have plans to tear it down, but I don't know what plans they have for moving into the existing facilities where the employees are going to be relocating. So I'm going to introduce Chuck Allen and ask him to come forward.
Judge,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
and
Chuck.
good morning, members of the court and certainly leadership of Tarrant County. My name is Chuck Allen. I'm the Managing Director of Government Affairs for American Airlines, a Fort Worth, Tarrant County headquartered Fortune 500 company that also happens to be the largest airline in the world. And we're delighted to call Tarrant County our home. The building that is being discussed is going to be a new facility. We had considered expanding the current facility that handles the system operations center for the current legacy American Airlines. We determined that for us to be the best airline in the world, we needed the latest technology and a new facility to provide that platform. The old building, to answer your question, Judge, will be repurposed. We have a lot of folks that we're bringing to the area, both in operations control, but also in training and in-flight pilots and so forth, and we are in need of additional office space, so we will repurpose that building.
Okay.
Just to give you, I'm sure all of you are very familiar with American Airlines, but just to refresh your memory, not only are we headquartered here, but we also have a number of operations outside just the general management and leadership of the company. We also have our major training facility here for our pilots and flight attendants, as well as our airport crew. We have a large reservation center here. Our technical operations folks are located here, and we have the current systems operations control center and about 15,000 employees that work at DFW. I think most of you know that we've been headquartered in this wonderful place for many, many years. And we'd like to think that we would be considered a good corporate citizen. Over the years, you can count in the millions the number of dollars that we have invested in the community, from health and human services to the arts and culture and uplifting children and women. The process that we went through for this facility, Legacy U.S. Airways has the same facility on a little smaller scale in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When U.S. Airways and America West merged in 2005, we looked at where we wanted to put the Operation Control Center for that entity. America West had theirs in Phoenix. U.S. Airways had theirs in Pittsburgh. We went out and bid this opportunity to 3 different states, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. All of them wanted it. They wanted it because, one, it's a center that is the nerve center of the airline. It has a lot of attention from vendors. It also has a very high average wage for the community. Pennsylvania provided the best opportunity for us, so we built the new, what we call OCC in Pittsburgh. With the merger of U.S. Airways and American Airlines, we decided to go a different route. We had been a partner with Tarrant County and Fort Worth for many, many years. We talked to the folks at Fort Worth, and they said, we'd want this facility here. Please come to us. And so we decided to take a different tack. We went to them. We said we'd like to keep it here. Lisa's already mentioned that there is an opportunity for us to take a tax abatement over 15 years on an incentive program from the folks in Fort Worth. So we didn't go to Pennsylvania and North Carolina to offer this opportunity. We kept it here, and that's what we'd like to do. As Lisa mentioned, the project, it's about 150,000 square feet, 1,300 employees. 500 of them will be new to the area in all likelihood, relocating from Pennsylvania. The skill set is highly specific. If they want to continue their careers with the company, it's in all likelihood they'll have to move here. I think once they get a taste of Texas culture and the welcoming that I have received since I moved here, they'll want to be here.
Their
as
biggest
well.
obstacle will be to go from Steelers to Cowboys.
And Steeler fans are hard to convert, I can assure you of that. So I would ask that the court approve this incentive and we'll move forward with construction.
Chuck, I want to thank you for your willingness to continue the location of this vital facility in Tarrant County. And our participation in this incentive program is a recognition of the fact that we want you here and of the fact that American Airlines has been a good corporate citizen over so many years. You referenced American Airlines' contributions to our community outside of its payroll and its other economic benefits, the contributions to health and human services and the arts in particular. We just want to make sure that as we go forward together in this relationship, that those contributions still are available to arts organizations and other nonprofits in our community. It makes for a good working relationship, and we all like to be good contributors to the places where we live, work, and play.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Brooks. We are proud to call Fort Worth our home. We are very proud to put Fort Worth on our letterhead that we use every day. And the leadership of the new company, the new American Airlines, had a very robust corporate giving program at the old U.S. Airways based in Tempe, Arizona. As part of our culture, we involve our employees. They help us decide where we make our contributions and where we engage. So you can certainly say that Fort Worth will be a very large part of that moving forward.
Thank you, Chuck.
Any other questions I may address?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Are we being asked to approve this today?
No, if there's no objections to the terms as we've laid out before you, as in the term sheet, then we will, the staff will draft a tax abatement agreement. We will have to wait until after City of Fort Worth has executed their tax abatement agreement, and then we will bring our agreement back to be approved based on the terms that you have in your packet today.
When do you anticipate? I mean, they normally take off in July, I guess.
They're off right now.
They won't be back until the 15th of July.
I don't know, but sometime by the end of the year.
All right. Thank you very much.
Your Honor, we could now go back to the administrator's section, item A2. I believe that we have the answers to the questions that were asked previously. Ms. McMillan.
I did want to give you some more information. Trinity Basin Preparatory is a free public charter school. They do have campuses in Oak Cliff and Dallas and the location on Pafford Street in Fort Worth. And they are there to serve predominantly a low-income student base. That location on Pafford Street was actually bought in 2010 or 11. It was a former Catholic school. You may remember when they initially came to us. I remember now, they did that. And it's located in between Hemphill Street and 35 north of the LeGrand Plaza area. They came last year for the $35 million in financing, but that issuance did not go through, and so that issuance, the approval is only good for 1 year. That's why they were coming back to get the same approval, but they never issued the $35 million last year. That $35 million is for financing and refinancing of improvements both to the Fort Worth location and the Dallas campuses, but they have to get approval on both Dallas and Fort Worth counties to move forward with that. Regarding the Arlington Higher Education Finance Corporation, it is appointed by the City Council of Arlington, and it is citizens members. And the reason why they do this, they have an aggressive issuer that seeks out and wants to finance these type of projects over on their Higher Education Finance Corporation.
So this organization does not locate in Arlington, and neither are their charter school location, right?
No.
They don't locate. They just happen to use the Arlington.
Correct. And we see that from time to
higher
time.
education.
There's some,
Okay.
around the state, there's some corporations that just are aggressive seeking out and doing those issuances.
They could have used the Tarrant County Education and Cultural
They could
for the same
indeed.
purpose.
Right.
Okay.
You already have a motion on this.
I actually do. Is there any other discussion at this time? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
Then we'll recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
JD, I checked your desk. I didn't see any lunch money.
So you want to grow a ponytail out here, huh? That'll be interesting. You and John is.
I can't grow a better one than he grew.
Huh?
I can't do one better than one.
I know we're being recorded.
Yes.
Have we turned the speakers off throughout the building? Because I don't necessarily.
No, we did.
Thank you.
Give me a second, Jay.
Having returned from our closed meeting, we will now address the following matters.
Your Honor, we could go to purchasing, item 9H5. Mr. Beecham is here to address the court.
Your Honor, the members of the court, this is an item in regards to RFP 2014-101, the financial audit of Tarrant County government. We are requesting permission from the court to negotiate first for a best and final offer from Deloitte & Touche. If not successful, we would then go to KPMG number 2, and if not successful with that, to number 3, Grant Thornton.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Is that it?
Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
There being no further business, we are adjourned.